Hi, I'm Chef Trevor, and welcome to the Carnivore Culinarian. Today we're going to talk about beef 101 to be exact. What I got right here is a whole subprimal. This is a lip-on ribeye, and this is where your ribeye steaks are going to come from. Okay, so beef 101. What I want to show you is how to eat better and save money. So instead of buying cut ribeye steaks, I buy the whole subprimal cut steaks myself, and I save on average about $5 a pound. Okay, so beef 101, let's talk about grading. This particular cut is labeled as USDA choice. Now, what exactly does that mean? You're gonna see select, you're gonna see choice, and you're gonna see prime, okay? So when that animal's coming through the harvest facility, one of those employees makes an incision, big knife, they cut right between the 12th and the 13th rib. Then that animal goes down to a USDA grader who works for the government, not the meat plant. That USDA grader looks at the eye of the rib, specifically the longissimus doris, which is the muscle that is considered the eye of the rib. The intramuscular marbling, or those little flecks of fat throughout that eye, is where that carcass is graded. The entire animal is graded and labeled select, choice, or prime based off that one area. Okay? So let's talk about the two most common grades you're gonna see. Choice and prime. It's all based on the marbling score. And what many people don't realize is in the choice category, there are 3 marbling scores. And in the prime category, there are another 3 marbling scores. So 3 marbling scores based on the amount of marbling in that ribeye, or the eye of the rib, or the longissimus. Okay, so you might have seen like upper 2/3 choice. That means between the 3 marbling scores, the top 2 are going to be represented in that upper 2/3. Okay, so learn to identify good marbling, because marbling is what makes the steak juicy and flavorful. Fat equals flavor. Let's move on to another really important part, okay? When I bought this lip-on ribeye from the Costco Business Center, I was able to see the actual harvest date. That date was July 2nd, 2025. Today is August 3rd. So this subprimal has just over a month of wet aging. Okay, I put it in my refrigerator, still in the original cryo bag from the harvesting plant, and just let it hang out and do its thing. So how does aging work, and why do we age beef? Well, beef freshly harvested, in the industry we refer to that as green meat. Doesn't mean it's green in color, but it's just unaged, okay? So what happens to this piece of meat when it's cryovac and put into a refrigerated cooler, okay? You're gonna get enzymes, okay? Specifically calpains and cathepsins, okay? Those are 2 enzymes that work together to break down the length of the muscle fibers within this meat. Think of muscle fibers, you're cutting against the grain so you don't get like a rubber band chew. Well, at a microscopic level, the enzymes are doing the same thing, and this starts happening as soon as that animal is harvested. And it is most active between day 1 up to day 21, and then between day 21 and 28, it tends to slow down. But a calpain, think of it as like a Pac-Man with its mouth open. and it's cruising around, and it runs into a strand of muscle, okay? And then the cathepsin activates that calpain, and the Pac-Man closes, and it cuts the muscle fiber, thus shortening the strands, resulting in tender beef. Now, really quick on dry aging, same process is happening. However, the meat is not in a bag. It's in a climate and humidity controlled environment, okay? So you're basically wicking moisture from the beef. You're allowing moisture to escape. If you're familiar with doing sauces, you reduce a sauce, or you achieve a reduction to intensify flavors. That's basically the same principle of dry aging. For me, my favorite dry aging sweet spot is about 45 days. So, little tidbit on grading and why we grade beef and what the results are. I can look at this ribeye, and just based off of my experience, certified protein specialist and chef for 40 years, I'm gonna go ahead and call this an upper 1/3. This is at the top tier, almost into prime. And when I start cutting into it, we'll show you that. Now, red meat. Why is red meat red? Well, myoglobin. Myoglobin is high in iron, and iron is high in red pigment, okay? So when somebody cuts into a steak and they see the red liquid all over their plate and they're like, ew, blood, how can you eat that? I like my steak well done. It's not blood. An animal is conked on the head. That animal is processed. The very, very first thing after that animal is humanely surrendered is it's bled out. All the blood drains out of that animal, okay? That liquid on your plate isn't blood whatsoever. It's myoglobin, okay? It's water, it's fat, and it's a protein called myoglobin. And myoglobin, not hemoglobin, myoglobin, the protein, is red because it's high in iron, and iron is red because it's high in a red pigment. So, anyway, it's just water and myoglobin doing their thing. So let's get to cutting this. I am going to cut this ribeye, or this 109 lip-on subprimal, into steaks. And then we are going to seal them up in my vacuum chamber, and we're gonna put them in our freezer out in the garage. Now the first thing we wanna do is eye this baby up. Okay, what I like to do, if you'll notice, these ends are a little crooked. They're kind of like a parallelogram. So I like to square up my cutting board on the edge of my counter, and then I like to square up my ribeye, and I'm gonna eyeball it right in here. And then I'm gonna make my first cut so I can square up this end. Hopefully I can get, right? And these are what we call Scooby snacks. I save these end pieces that are kind of like a little teardrop. You see how it's thin and it comes to thick, but you can see that beautiful marbling all throughout that piece of meat. That is flavor. Intramuscular marbling, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing on this end. I wanna start there and I wanna square this up. So I'm gonna make my cut nice and straight down. And you can see that marbling. Now, I like to take these two little pieces, my Scooby snacks, and that'll be tomorrow's breakfast when I get back from the gym. And yes, all these little lean bits, more Scooby snacks. Don't be afraid to eat it. We know where this meat came from. We know it was stored properly. Okay, so let's take a look at this. You see that marbling? You got 3 muscles here. This top muscle, or the rib cap, I like to call it dessert. So from the tail of the ribeye, appetizer, entree, dessert, longissimus complexus spinalis. Full scientific name, longissimus doris, complexus doris, and spinalis doris. Anyway, onward we go. Now, I got this nice and squared up here, okay? Until you get an eye for this, I've been cutting meat for quite some time, and I know exactly how thick I want my ribeye, because basically the meat on my plate is all we're gonna eat. We ain't got a tater, we ain't got no veggies. I'll measure it. I'll just break out my Stanley and look at this, and like 17 inches. Some quick math, if I go 1.5 inches, I can put my knife right there, toss my tape measure off to the side. I can make a straight cut all the way down. Look at that steak. Isn't that gorgeous, right? If I was to go to the market right now, or the butcher shop, and buy that steak, we're looking $15, $16, $17 a pound, okay? This entire subprimal at the business center, man, I tell you, it was like $13.99 a pound, okay? So, people say, that's expensive. Still, chef, I still can't afford that. Think about all the money that you're saving by utilizing this entire lip-on ribeye. We're not gonna throw anything away. There we go. Longissimus complexus, that little nugget right there, and that beautiful cap, the spinalis. Boom. We don't throw anything away, okay? Another day, another video, we're gonna render our own tallow using scraps from this ribeye. Okay, what else are we gonna do with it? A little Scooby snack? We're going to make what I like to call the Carnivore Culinarian's primal grind. That's right, we're gonna grind our own beef. My primal grind, I developed for those of us who aren't too particularly fond about just eating pan-fried liver. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but if I can make it better, I'm gonna do it. So the way I did that was, I save all my scraps from cutting steaks. These are hogs, dude. Look at that. Okay, that's a 22-ounce ribeye. Look at that marbling. Can you see that? Mug, dude. That is so beautiful. My goodness. Anyway, I love meat. I mean, you know, what else was I gonna do with my life? My last name is Cook. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so I save all my scraps. I utilize 100% of everything I buy, so there's no waste. And I get beef heart, beef cheek, beef tongue, and liver, okay? And there are specific ratios in my recipe that I can share with you. So you don't overdo the liver. You hear Dr. Sean Baker talk about liver consumption and how it is the absolute most nutrient-dense, bioavailable superfood, but you don't want to get too much. So I grind that all up. I call it the primal grind. Oh, it's like fucking butter. So good. So yeah, we're gonna continue to cut these big fat ribeyes. I know a lot of you might be saying, damn chef. So I get down to my last chunk here. I can make prime rib. Nice little rib roast. Could put it on my slicer, shave it up. I could take this, put some chill on it, slice it real thin and make a little shabu shabu. Just have fun. Like, you know, get crazy, use your imagination, or send me an email and ask me, hey chef, what can I do with this? Give me some ideas, and that's what I'm here for now. So I am gonna look at this and I can go, well, I could cut that right in half and make 2 Fred Flintstones, or, you know, Dr. Sean Baker size steaks. At last count, I think he said he eats about 4 pounds a day. You're gonna hear me refer to Dr. Sean Baker quite a bit because I think he's a really solid dude. If you haven't read or downloaded his book, The Carnivore Diet, I highly recommend you do. It's going to answer a lot of questions. It's got a lot of really great insight, and the book opens with a little bit about Sean Baker, MD. Dr. Sean's bio summarized, if you will. Listen to his story. Listen to what he's gone through, and listen, kind of understand where he is now, and take his advice and what he has to say to heart, because he's a really solid guy, okay? Not only is he super smart, but listen to that bio and think about where this guy came from and who he really is. So look, we got this big tail. Our appetizer, our main course, and our dessert up here at the spinalis. Okay, so if you'll notice, you got some lean going on through there and a lot of really beautiful fat. Now I'm gonna take my knife, I'm gonna cut down, and I'm gonna follow the convex shape of this tail just to trim that down a little bit. I'm gonna come around, cut it off right there, and now I have this beautiful ribeye, okay? I have this beautiful fat. It still has lean on it, so I can do 2 things here. I can grind this fat down and render it, and after it renders for a while, all these little ground bits of lean that are found throughout this fat, all those little bits are gonna sink to the bottom. I'm gonna strain it through cheesecloth. I'm gonna save those little bits because they're like little bits of gold. They're heavenly. You can do a ton of things. Nothing is going to waste. So if you start off by saying, hey, chef, I can't afford $15 a pound for a whole ribeye. Well, think about this. You're getting steaks. You're getting ground beef. You're getting tallow. You're getting little bits of gold to scramble in your eggs, or, I don't know, sprinkle on your carnivore ice cream, whatever you want to do. By the way, if anybody ever comes up with carnivore ice cream, count me in. I like the ice cream for bears, sweetened only organic honey. Now I know, blah, blah, blah. It's not fucking carnivore. Well, you know what? That's cool. You do you. You do you. If you want to treat yourself once a month to a little treat, ice cream for bears is pretty legit shit. Okay? Organic honey, milk, cream, and eggs. It's as carnivore as you're gonna get. Sans the honey. Anyway, we're gonna finish fabricating out these things. Look at these. Boom. Look at that. I wanna eat you now. That's what she said. Anyway, let's talk about the channel. This is a brand new venture for me. I'm standing in my kitchen. I got on Amazon and invested in some production, lighting, microphone, little gimbal that follows me around in a tripod and everything. I've never done this before. Setting up this whole production. Scooby snack. So if it sucks, I'm sorry. I'm sure you weren't like Ron Jeremy good your first time. I'll get better. Yeah. So we're gonna freeze it all. We're gonna use it all. And at the end of the day, if we incorporate the fact that we bought a subprimal at a subprimal price, we factor in that we're gonna grind this fat and make our own tallow. We're gonna factor in, we're gonna grind this fat with other less expensive lean, less expensive heart, less expensive tongue, less expensive cheek, and less expensive liver. And we're gonna get a beautiful, super nutrient dense, super beautiful primal grind. At the end of the day, you really can eat this well on a budget. When I was eating the traditional American diet, my favorite thing was the loaded baked potato. I would fry up a pound of bacon. I would roll that potato in bacon grease. I would coat it with kosher salt, and I would throw it in the oven. I would pop that bad boy open, fill it with butter, sharp cheddar cheese, all that bacon, chive or green onion, salt, pepper, the whole nine. I'd load that fucker up. It'd be this big ass potato on my plate, a big ass steak on my plate, and like broccolini or grilled asparagus or some bullshit. And what would happen? I would get super carb, super stuffed. You know that fucking ate too much, I'm so full, bloated gut feeling. I haven't had that in over 2 years, but I remember it. And I had leftovers. My point is I had a ton of leftovers. I still had vegetables in my refrigerator because we couldn't eat it all because, you know, that's how they sell vegetables. And I would end up throwing away so much food. It was ridiculous. I mean, the vegetables would go bad in the refrigerator because I couldn't get to them fast enough. I couldn't finish my plate because I was overloaded with carbs. I'd put leftovers in the fridge, and really, who wants leftovers? Be honest. The vast majority of leftovers get thrown away. So, needless to say, this is less expensive. Look at that. Zoom in on that marbling. This is choice from Costco. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 super thick ass, well marbled, aged over 28 days. Well, the 2nd to August 3rd right now, so we're aged a month. Okay, the Calpains and the I can never get that word right. I got a cheat sheet right here. Cat Hepsins, CATHEPSIN. Anyway, we've got Scooby snacks for our breakfast. We've got beautiful fat here we're gonna render and or incorporate into our ground primal blend. All these little bits that fall to the bottom of the pot, we're gonna save those. That's another video. And that's about it. We're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna go ahead, and bag these. I use 4 mil bags, and I have not a vacuum sealer like a food saver and there's nothing wrong with those. They're great. I had one for decades. It pulls the air out and it seals it. Great. That's serving the purpose. It's doing its job. However, I find for my preference is a chamber sealer that actually mimics going into elevation, mimics going below sea level. So if you know you go up into the mountains and there's a bag of chips sitting on, well, I hope there's not a bag of chips, but think back when you did have a bag of chips. Sitting on the dashboard, you go up into the mountains and that bag expands, okay? You come back down to sea level, it shrinks. Well, if you put that bag underwater, a couple hundred feet below sea level, each atmosphere, it's gonna crush it, right? That's what a chamber sealer does. It expands it, seals it, and then click, it drops it way below sea level and it goes and seals it really well. Over here behind me, I've got my Cambro water bath with my immersion circulator, so I can sous vide. So what I'll do is I'll take this steak sealed, I'll drop it into the water bath. I prefer 120 for a minimum of 2 hours. Sometimes I'll forget about them and it'll go 8 hours, 10 hours. And then I get a pan. I'm gonna show you my pan. Here in America, we swear by cast iron, okay? Although this is a solid protein built body and I'm pretty damn strong for 55, cast iron is fucking heavy. These are high carbonized steel, okay? These pans are made in France. Mauvel, 1830, M-A-U-V-I-E-L, okay? These are high carbon steel. They're very lightweight. I got a big one and a small one. They're all I use. They're seasoned. They've never seen water once. Every day I cook in these, right? I wipe them clean. I wipe them out with a paper towel and I drop a spoonful of tallow in there and just let it melt down until I'm ready to eat. If this one's full of tallow, I dump it over here. I use this pan. Tallow sets up, I'll warm it up, I'll take it from this pan, dump it into this pan. Tallow goes back and forth. They're black like this because they're well seasoned. Anyway, again, that could be another video. I believe I've covered everything. Yield and final cost, ribeye 109. On average, if you're just doing steaks and you're not using your trim, on a 109, it's about 10 to 20% loss. However, on the carnivore lifestyle, we are going to utilize every single bit of this item. So there's zero loss. Think about that. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. Please like and share. Let's get this going. My topics are coming from you. What do you want to see? You're new to carnivore. What do you want to know? You've been doing carnivore for years. You're out of ideas, or I don't know, you have a question. What do you want to see? What do you want to know? And how can I help you as a certified protein specialist and a lifelong culinarian? I'm 55 on the 13th. That's 10 days from now. I've been in the kitchen for 41 years. Let's have fun, all right? And cut.